morning, guys. How's everybody doing today? Everybody can hear me okay? Let me know if the sound's all right, and we can get the show started. Glad to see a lot of people here today. Nice to see you guys. It's been a while, guys. It's been a while. It's been a crazy period for me. But we're back, and I'm so glad to see everybody here today. I hope everybody's doing well. Um, I want to say, I want to give a big thank you to everybody. First off, that sent me very nice messages, especially during the rough time. Some of you may know that my dad recently passed away in January. My mom just passed away in February. So it's been a very, very rough time for me. Probably, you know, obviously the roughest time I've ever had. But you guys were really great, and a lot of you sent me private messages of encouragement and well wishes, and I really, really do appreciate that. It's it's great. It's great to know you guys are thinking about us, and it really definitely cheered me up during a rough time. So I hope you guys are all doing very well. I hope you guys are feeling okay. I hope you guys are all in tip top shape, and looking forward to another Sunday show. I'll be honest with you guys, I wasn't really up to doing a show today, but I figured the best thing to do when, life sucks basically is to just move forward. So that's exactly what we're doing. Both of my parents would have would have definitely wanted it that way, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing. So I want to say good morning to the guys that are already here this morning. I know a lot of you got up nice and early, and it's great to see you guys here because, after being away for a little bit, I wasn't sure if you guys would come back. So it's really great to see you guys here. Thank you for your condolences, guys. I really appreciate that. Um, Alan, yeah, it was a rough time. It definitely was, but life is like that. I mean, I'm not the first one to go through it. I'm sure you guys, some of you have already gone through it. If you guys are lucky enough to have both your parents around, cherish them, spend as much time as you can with them, because when they're gone, you always regret not spending more time with them. And if they're still around, definitely, enjoy the time that you have with them, because, we don't know when that time will come. And for me, I think it was an opportunity for me to spend time with my mom. And unfortunately, the truth is, cancer sucks, guys. She had a very short battle with cancer, and unfortunately, unfortunately or fortunately, it didn't. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to stick around longer. But honestly, when you have a disease like that, sometimes it's probably best when they don't, because the last thing we would want to see is her suffering. I was able to spend time with her in her last days. I was there when she took her last breath. So, I made a promise to her that I wouldn't leave her, and that's what I did. So I'm happy to have been able to do that. Yeah, Mark, cancer's a bitch. Let's put it straight. But let's talk about some other stuff, guys. Let's not turn this into a sad, somber show. I want it to be a good show, and I want it to be something that we all enjoy today. So for those of you who are new here today, and I didn't go through everybody. There might be some new faces here. I'm not really sure. In any case, if some of you are new here, Addicted to Gear is basically a channel for gear addicts and musicians of all walks of life. And you guys are welcome to tune in every Sunday and get the support you need for any gear addiction. We're all in it together, so this show basically is dedicated to answering questions, sharing information and opinions, and ultimately helping each other make informed choices around gear and other things. So that's the gist of the show. And if you're new, that's what you can expect. Um, Thanks, Wayne. I appreciate it. We love you. I love you too, guys. I love you too. Um, I'm just looking at some of the most recent comments here. Mark says, no new gear for me, but the new Yamaha RevStar got me gassing. I saw that, Mark. They looked very interesting to me too. The RevStar seemed to be getting really nice reviews. People definitely like them. They're not necessarily flashy in terms of guitars, but the new lineup seems really nice with the new colors and options. Um, I think they're solid guitars. Yamaha makes great instruments. So for those of you who maybe have been thinking about pulling the trigger, definitely check that out. Um, uh, Surferby says, sorry to hear about your mom and dad. I lost my dad last year to COVID. Oh man. And I'm taking care of my mother right now in hospice. So we'll help each other. Sorry to hear that, buddy. It's really rough. I'm not used to being an orphan. I realized the other day that's what I am now. So um, it's not easy, man. My heart goes out to anyone in a situation like that with their parents. Um, you know, it's spend as much time as you can with them. That's the only basic advice I can give you, because the pain of losing a parent never goes away. No matter what anybody says, it's always there. Your heart is always broken. There's always that hole. We learn to live with it, but that's all we can do. Larry says, I bought a Headrush 108 after watching your video. Cool, Larry. I appreciate that. That's good. I hope you like it. I think it's a really cool unit. I have mine right here next to me, and I was just playing it yesterday. Um, I think it's great. I think it works really, really well. Simplifies things if you're gigging with a multi-effects unit. For those of you who don't know, the Headrush 108 is it's a powered speaker that you can plug your multi-effects units into and use it to basically amplify the sound. Mark says he played one of the old Rev Stars and it was nice, but the newest one switching seems really interesting. Yeah, that's what I think is going to be the big seller, Mark, on those guitars. Beyond the paint jobs, because I think the paint jobs are quite nice too. But yeah, the options that they're including on the units now, on those guitars now, I think are going to be very interesting for a lot of people. Um, so I'm going to keep a close eye on those myself. Presley, California Customs. Finally sold my 73 Fender Mustang I refretted. It was tough to see it go. Yeah, I understand. When you put a lot of labor, love, sweat, tears into a build, it's really hard because it becomes your personal thing. I've had to sell a couple of part casters along the way too, and you're right. I always have seller's remorse at a certain point because every little nook, cranny, defect, ding, in that guitar after spending so much time on it that it's hard to finally see it go. But I'm sure it went to a good home. Fat Philosopher says, good luck, give cancer hell. My wife has survived 30 years with an incredibly strict diet. Wow, that's great. I wish her all the best. Hopefully she gets another 30 years at least. Yeah. Alan says, my newest piece of gear is the NuX MG300 I got last weekend from a really nice guy named Tony. Alan, I'm happy it got to you okay. I hope you enjoy it, buddy. It's a cool unit. Definitely, I had a lot of fun with it. And I hope it's getting a lot of wear. Enjoy it, buddy. And Cushman says, hi Charles. Cushman says, I looked at the Les Paul tribute, didn't pull the trigger, wasn't for me. Why not? What didn't you like about the tribute, Cushman? Just wondering. Is it the features, the price? What was it? So by the way, guys, just so I mention this to the new people that I don't already know, you can also support the channel by using discount code ATG103 today for show 103 if you're interested in picking up some swag, some cups, mugs, shirts, whatever. Get a 10% discount today if you use that coupon code. That helps the channel. Obviously, if you can also help the channel by doing super chats, every little bit helps. And just wanted to point that out in case we have some newcomers here. All right. Alan says it's really getting a lot of use. Nice little unit for direct recording. Thank you. You're more than welcome, Alan. You deserve it. I'm glad it went to somebody that appreciates it, and no worries. There'll be more. This is, for those of you who don't know, Alan was the grand prize winner in the draw for that unit that we did a couple of weeks back, and there'll be more draws coming up as well. We haven't finished with those, so there'll be more. So stay tuned. If you were not lucky enough to win, you'll have other chances for sure. Grant says newest piece of gear is the Blackstar JGN20 head. Sounds fantastic with my Gibson SG. Congratulations on that, buddy. You know what? I really do like that unit. I still have mine. I haven't actually done a video of that unit yet, and I'm going to do it eventually. I'm kind of backlogged now. I have a lot of stuff I gotta do videos for. But I still have my unit. I enjoy it every day, almost every day. I think the head is actually a better option in my opinion because you can actually match it up with different cabinets. I tried my combo through different cabinets, and ultimately I found that the speaker that's in that unit is pretty good. You know, it's not too shabby. Perhaps the only thing that made it sound even better is going through my 412 cabinet, but that's it's not a big surprise because you get a really big sound. But the Blackstar is really very versatile, and I would recommend it to anybody. I'm still, even after the honeymoon phase is over, I'm still enjoying that combo amp immensely. I don't regret buying that at all. Alexander has a Blues Junior en route, another great amplifier, another good combo. The Blues Junior is very underrated in my opinion. A lot of people don't realize what a great amplifier that is. The only thing I could say about the Blues Junior, if you really want to make it better, is the actual box. It's I don't know why they don't use pine, but if you actually change the cabinet to a pine box, it makes a really big difference in the sound. But it's a great amplifier. A lot of people really like it, and you can do a lot with it. And it's not that expensive. You can still get them used for decent prices. Fat Philosopher says the Tribute feels super cheap for the money. I kind of, well, do I agree? I think it does feel different. It definitely feels different. I tried one in the store, but to be fair, it wasn't set up properly. I still don't understand how stores expect to be able to sell gear when they're not set up properly. The height on the strings, the action on the strings was super high. I think there was even a busted string on it when I tried it, believe it or not. So it didn't make a good impression on me, but I'm sure if you buy one and you set it up properly, it could be a good value if you get one used or something like that. Today I'm holding this guitar. This is the guitar I reviewed a little while ago. This is the ERT, whatever you want to call it, EART. This is the Telecaster style guitar. Nice guitar. I've been really enjoying playing this guitar a lot. And actually, I did something cool I'm going to share with you guys. I set up a dual camera setup here for you guys. So here I can show you what I mean. So I have my unit right here. This is beside me. Let me see if I can actually do There we go. You can see my ugly mug. So this is the MG30 that you're hearing. It's a really nice unit. The reason why I'm playing around with this setup right now is because I wanted to get it in the shot correctly. I wanted to do comparison videos of different multi-effects units. I use this one often. I also have the Ampero. This is the Ampero Stomp 2, which came out not too long ago. And I also have the Harley Benton multi-effects unit. And I'm alternating between all of them. I like the MG30 a lot. It's in its simplicity, and the sounds are good. But I think right out of the box, the sounds that come with this unit are very hot. So I did some editing to the sounds to kind of make them sound better, in my opinion, because most of them were right out of the box were just way too hot. So you can see this is a standard stock setting. It's called the Joko Time Trip because it's got the delay is off. But if I turn on the delay, you can see the So you can do a lot of really cool things. So what I wanted to do is with this setup, I wanted to have a couple of live streamed shows where I was actually going to be playing through some of the sounds, going through some of the features and functions on each one of these units. For any of you that are interested in checking those out, because then I can take questions. You know, I can take questions live. If anybody has any questions, you know, I can show you how to set up sounds. I can show you how to play with IRs and whatnot. So the unit is really solid. I really like it a lot. And one of the things I really like about this unit that a lot of people don't know is the fact that you have the scenes. And the scenes are great whenever you're using sets. You're playing a gig and you want to change things on the fly. Instead of setting up two patches to, for example, give you a clean and a driven sound, you can actually set it all up with using the scenes. A lot of people don't know how to use the scenes with this unit, so that's going to be one of the videos that I'm going to be doing for you guys. But if you guys want to know, you see the S here, you see it says S1. I don't know if you can see that. Well, if you push down the knob and hold it down, it basically gets you into the menu where you can route all of the controllers. There's 4 actual controllers in this unit. You have the foot switch. That's one of the controllers. You have the control switch here, and you have an input here for an additional foot switch that you can use as a controller. So if you want to set the control here as a switch for the scenes, it's really easy to do. You just go to the 4th knob here. Now it's set as tap. You can see that set it as tap. So you just basically put it to scene like that. You can see the control lights up. You basically go back to your patch. And now when you hit this, instead of controlling the tempo of the delay, you're toggling through the scenes. You can see the little scene little icon there. That's scene 1, scene 2, and scene 3. So basically, it allows you to alternate things. So for right now, I have like a delay, I have a reverb, a modulation, IR, amps, and all that kind of stuff. But I can actually just go into scene 2. And for example, in that scene, so now if I play it, I have a reverb and delay. So let's say I take out the delay and I take out the reverb. It sounds like this. Very dry, right? That's all I got to do. I can save it. And now, you know, if I go to scene 1, let's go back to scene 1. you have all of the effects. Scene 2, dry. And I could turn on and turn off any of these effects. The only disadvantage is that you can't switch amps on the fly. That would have been really great, because then you can have, let's say, scene 1 could be a JCM 800. Like in this particular case, the amp I'm using is a Brit 800, which is a JCM 800, let's say, simulation. So if you can change the amps on the fly like that in the scenes, then scene 2 I could put a totally different amp or a totally different cabinet. Unfortunately, it doesn't allow me to do that. So there is limitations, but you know, there's ways around that. So that's a quick little rundown of that particular unit. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. But I'm really enjoying that unit. I'll let you guys know when I'm doing the live streams in case any of you are looking at any of these. Vox Guitars Rock is asking me something about my watch. Did I read right? I went to buy a little quick. What watch are you wearing? I'm wearing what watch do you think it is? What does it look like to you? I don't know. Can you see from there? This is it's basically an homage to an Omega Seamaster. It's not an Omega Seamaster. It's an homage. It's very similar in terms of look. I don't know if you can see that. It's very similar except for the price tag. It's about $4,000 less, I would say. I like watches, guys. That's my other obsession. It's guitars, watches, pens. But I like watches that look really nice but are not expensive, because I tend to wreck my watches really quickly. Rico, no, it's not Orient. It's actually, believe it or not, it's called Pagani Design. They're kind of like knockoffs that you can get for like 100, 150 bucks. Not expensive at all. In case you're wondering. So Jeff says I got a 2003 SA a couple of weeks ago. Fat Philosopher, very happy with it. Never had an Ibanez before. Everybody should have at least one Ibanez just to experience the Ibanez sound. You know, it's not for everybody, but a lot of people do like Ibanez a lot. Yeah, the artist who made these presets. So there's a few here. Let me show you. There's a couple of presets that have been made by different people. Let me just show you here. So the Joko, it was made by Jonathan, my buddy Jonathan, who also has his own channel, Jonathan Co. That's him. I tweaked the sounds. I told you they were a little bit hot. But if we go down, you'll see some other people here as well. So a bunch of these are his. Then we have, I think we also have Pete Thorne in there that actually made a few of his. Let me just see if I can find them here. There's so many. There's MF. I don't know who MF is. SG, RG, LX. But then there's definitely, I know there's Pete Thorne in there as well. There's a lot of settings in here, guys. He has some nice ones. There's emulations of Friedman. Just to show you how many sounds there's in this thing. It's really amazing. Anyways, it's in there. I think maybe it's one of the first ones. But one of the things I don't like about this unit also is that you got to go down patch by patch. The stomp, when you click both of these, it goes down in sets of 3. Whereas this one, you have to go down one at a time. There's no way to do that. If you click both these knobs, you get into the looper with the drum settings. So, you know, it is what it is. But they're all slightly different, and they all work slightly different, but they all have positives and negatives. This one, let me just go down here. I'm gonna find it. Just give me a second. Okay. I guess these are one of the first ones probably in here. I'm not going bananas. I know it's in here somewhere. Where is it? There we go. PT. So he's the first one. So you can see here he's got. So we got Peter T 80s Clean, which sounds like this. A nice clean sound with a little modulation on it. I believe he has a little, he put, yeah, a little chorus CE2 for the modulation on that one. And then we have the Plexi lead. But these are already modified, guys. I changed them. There's no delay, but if I turn on the delay. And then we have a raw BE. That's a brown eye. And we have a rotor grind, which is kind of, it's a weird, it's kind of a modulated sound. And he put in a rotary effect, as you can see there. So you can do quite a few things. If I take out the rotary effect. And the amp he's using in this setting is just a super reverb, you know. So pretty, you can do a lot with this little unit. I'm pretty impressed with it. And yeah, I want to share that with you guys eventually, if you guys are interested. All right, let's answer a few more questions out there. If you guys have questions about anything, let me know. Just put in the questions. I'm gonna scroll. Yeah, BC Rich, scrolling is an endless process on every piece of gear. That's one of the big things with the multi-effects units, is you're constantly tweaking. I say that over and over again, but it's not necessarily a bad thing, because I found some really nice sounds in all of these units. Alan says, all that switch be clicking would drive me mad. What's wrong with a rotary selector? Clean sounds good. Yeah. You can probably, let me just get out of here. If you use the rotary selector, you can go through it with the rotary selector too. So here, let me show you that. It's not just clicking. You can actually just do this, you know. You can go through the rotary if you want to use it that way. You know. You don't have to go through the clicking. Nice ping pong delay on that. Nice ping pong delay on that effect. I like it. You really have to learn how to use it. That's the thing. It's, you know, there's always going to be limitations on all multi-effects units, but once you learn how to use them. BC Rich says, I'm not too far behind you, but my guitar players back in the 90s had all that art rack gear, so I'm used to the spinning knobs and displays. Yeah, that was big in the 80s for sure. Ed says, Tony, how do you listen to a unit like that in the room? Monitor speakers. Yeah, you can use monitor speakers, but I use my Headrush 108 FR powered speaker. The reason why I do that is because that's the speaker that I'll normally take with me if ever I go if I use the unit for a jam session. I'll usually bring that speaker to power it. So that way there's no surprises. What I hear in the room is what I take with me to the gig. So, if there's a little bit too much bass, for example, I can dial it out. I know that's what I'm gonna get. If I use my monitors work well, but then when you take the unit with you on a gig, it's going to change a little bit. So I prefer not to have any surprises. Yeah, Alan, I agree, man. That is the big advantage with these multi effects units is that you basically, for a couple $100, sometimes under $500, you get a really decent unit, and I don't know how many sounds you actually would need, and when you're playing in a gig or a rehearsal. Maybe if you're playing a show, it would be a little bit different. But often, if you're just playing a rehearsal, you don't need that many sounds in terms of amps. So you can make do with a good deluxe reverb sound, maybe a plexi sound or a Vox, something like that. And there's enough pedals in here to do pretty much what you want. And because the foot switch doubles as a volume or an expression pedal or a wah, you don't need to carry a big board, and you can get a lot of the sounds out of the unit, which are quite convincing, I gotta say. I mean, I like the unit a lot for the sounds that it has. I'm not disappointed. The only sound I find in this unit that is a little lacking is the spring reverb. The spring reverb in this unit, for whatever reason, doesn't sound very good to me. So any effects that uses the spring reverb, I kind of get rid of the spring reverb. So if I put in let me just give you an example here. So let's say I'll go with a okay. So let's say we have this sound, pretty clean. Now I'm going to change this reverb here. And from the hall, I'll take and I'll bring it to the spring. Here we go. Now, I don't know if you can. Let me bring the volume for that a little bit louder. The level, so you can hear it a little bit more. And let me get rid of the delay so you can actually put that in. Listen to this. You hear that? It sounds... There's a little annoying high end to it. Sounds a little bit tin canny to me. So I don't usually use that one. But the shimmer is nice. The plate is really nice. And if you bring up the decay on that, it's sounds pretty nice to me. Depending on which amp you're using it, of course. Which so you can get a lot of really nice sounds out of it. So yeah, there was a question about the Spark Mini. I like it. I like the Spark. A lot of people like it. I think it's a good thing that they brought that out. I like well, I'm not going to say all the mini pedals, but I definitely like the form factor of mini pedals over the full size pedals, especially when it's a pedal that has like one knob on it. For me, I use the exotic effects stuff a lot. I have the EP booster. I have the SP compressor. These things are, mini in size. They often have one or two knobs on them. They're built like tanks. I've had mine forever. Great little mini pedals. So for me, if I can squeeze mini pedals on my board, I'm a happy camper. The full-sized pedals, the big ones, I've been staying away from those because I don't want to give up so much real estate. So I tend to grab the smaller ones so I can squeeze in more, or at least use smaller pedal boards. Yeah, the momentary switch is a nice feature on those pedals. Um, you can play it in different ways. You know, click to turn it on and let go to keep it on, or just keep it pressed, and then you have that effect until you let go, which is nice. Alan says the Spark sucks. Too much bass for me. Um, it could be. What kind of music are you playing with the Spark, Alan? Are you playing it with a lot of overdrive or distortion effects in front of the unit? I have not owned a Rat pedal. I'm not a big fan of the Rat sound. I know a lot of people are. I've tried. Actually, I never owned one, but I have tried them, and I've tried the reissues, not the original ones. Um, I don't know. I found that the sound was a little harsh, so I'm into a little bit more of a smoother type of drive or overdrive sound that still retains the dynamics. So that's why I'm not really a big fan of that. One of my favorite pedals that I have on my board is the Mojo Hand Rook. It really is an outstanding pedal, and it really works well because it doesn't doesn't take away from the sound and dynamics of your amplifier. I find, you know, it works with it. It improves in different ways, and there's enough range and variables in the settings that you can. It works really well with a lot of different amplifiers. Alan says I have the eArt or Art E3S great guitar. Yeah, that's. I think it's the one that is the that's the Strat style unit, I believe. Yeah, Alan only plays says clean only, no distortion for me. And you're still getting too much bass out of it. What amp are you going through? What kind of speakers are in that amp that you're using it with? Mark says his current favorite overdrive is the J Rocket Dude. Yeah, the J Rocket stuff is really nice, I gotta say. I haven't tried the Dude yet, but I like the J Rocket stuff. They really make a lot of really nice pedals. Eventually, I'm gonna get one of those. Do you own a Timmy? No, I don't know. I don't have a Timmy, but I have a Timmy clone. I don't know where it is now. It's here somewhere. Is it on my board? Did I leave it on my board? Yeah, it's down there. Sorry, guys. I'm all plugged in over here. I don't want to. Yeah, but it's down there. It's a Timmy clone. It's a Chinese knockoff of a Timmy. Gets pretty close. Saves me a lot of cash, so I use that one. I don't use it all that often because I prefer some of the other pedals that I use that I have. But from time to time, when I want that sound, I throw it in. By the way, guys, I'm not endorsed or sponsored by Fender. I know you guys. You see this? This is a shirt. It was given to me. I like it because there's the schematics of a Fender, sort of a blow away view of the Fender assembly of a guitar. That's what I like most about. I just wish this would be smaller, but it is what it is. I wonder if Google and YouTube will not show this video because of this on some other channel or some other streams. You know how they're monetizing stuff? They do commercials. I wonder if I have Fender on my shirt like this, if it won't show up in certain streams. Specifically, maybe the Gibson streams. Dan says, a luthier who did the repair is a certified Gibson and Fender tech. He told me at the time that Gibson is near impossible to deal with. Guess they want resellers to absorb frustration. Interesting. Mark says it's a D-style amp, but just smooth, creamy overdrive to me. So what type of amp? It's a D, like a Dumble style amp. What's the brand? What's the name? Ed says I have a Keelan Pure Sky Timmy clone and love it. I've tried that one. I've had it for a little while. That one came and went because I wasn't using it all that much. But yeah, it's a decent little pedal for not too much money. Alan says Vox AC30. Randy says the Spark sound seems perfect for single coils. And Fat Philosopher is correcting me, saying I think ERT or EART is actually pronounced EART, electronic art. I don't know why some of these really simple names from these Chinese brands are so hard to pronounce correctly. You know, like Nuex. A lot of people were calling it Nux for a long time. And EART. If this is supposed to be EART, they would have maybe put a little hyphen between, or maybe change the color of the E, or anyways, whatever it is. Mark says, I also like the Noble's ODR1. I also have the way huge version that gives a tad more gain. Very thick, creamy overdrives are my favorite. Yeah, the Nobles, I almost pulled the trigger on when they released the smaller version, the mini version of that one. I didn't buy it, however, because a lot of people were claiming that it seemed a little cheap in terms of the construction. So that's still on my list. I haven't scratched it off my list. I just haven't come across it, used or something like that. Eventually, I'll probably try it out. A lot of people really do rave about that one. Lion King says Fender Custom Shop versus Gibson Custom Shop, Murphy Lab. So is that a question? Are you asking me? Which one is better? Which one is worse? For me, I might shock a lot of you guys, but I don't own a custom shop anything because I find it's just crazy expensive for what it is. I appreciate the work that goes into these things. Some of the Murphy Lab Gibsons look amazing, but the price tag to me it's a no go. I can't justify the price. Because basically, you're getting a really nice looking guitar if you're into that type of thing. But at the same time, it's, you're basically paying for a paint job. And the custom shop stuff, I honestly think that you can get close to that custom shop feel yourself if you know how to put together a Strat properly. You can age it yourself and you can make it your own. And it definitely won't cost you $6,000. So for me, that's the issue with those things. I've built plenty of Strat, part casters and stuff like that, which I really like, and I can build them the way I want them to be built. So I can't justify spending $6,000 on something like that. Would I love to have one? Sure. If somebody would give me one, I would be happy to own one. But, paying that kind of money for one, I don't know. I think people forget that, you're not buying, it's not a vintage guitar, if you're going after a vintage guitar and the vintage guitar, is something that's rare and you can't find and authentic in terms of the actual wear and tear on the guitar and being broken in, I can understand why somebody would want to pay that kind of money, because ultimately it's a collector's item. It's like buying vintage, vintage furniture or something like that. It's not a copy; it's a real thing. But if I had to pay that kind of money for a copy, I don't think so. Fat Philosopher says, by the way, Tony went back to the pawn shop and the guitar you saw in the background of my photo was a Sir. You had a good eye. Yeah, I can tell the style of that guitar. Do you know how much they were asking for that guitar, just out of curiosity? Probably quite a bit, even though it's used. Yeah, the Sir guitars are great, but yeah, they're very expensive. Very expensive. Rico says I'm running into the same customer service issue with PRS. They aren't answering my email warranty requests. I even DM them on Twitter, no reply. I wonder if they're getting too busy with all the Silver Sky SE stuff, all that hype that they generated not too long ago. It kind of went away really quick, don't you find, guys? You know, there was about a period of a week or so. Everybody was there was a whole bunch of hoopla over the Silver Skies, and now it's kind of quiet. It's died down. I wonder if it's just because you can't get them, you know. Mark makes me laugh. My wife gets mad when I fart, F-ART, you know. He's making fun of the name of the guitar. Randy says, I have an MXR Timmy. Anybody like that thing? Want to trade? MXR Timmy, anybody? Well, some of the old MXR stuff's quite collectible. If you have some of that stuff, I'm sure there'll be some people on here that will probably be happy to trade with you. Surfer By says, I don't own any custom shop guitars either. That's why I started building my own guitars a few years ago. Strats and Telecasters. And they're all unique and sound excellent. That's kind of what I've done too. I mean, it's really super easy to build Partcasters once you get the hang of it. They're asking $3,300 for that root beer, sir. Yeah, man. Expensive, really expensive. They're great guitars. I mean, the necks on them are fantastic. But honestly, even this one, you know, I love this guitar. It plays so well. The neck feels amazing on this guitar. You know, I can't get over it. And I have the Sir right there. I mean, it's right. It's hanging right there. That's the Sir. You know, if you can see it there, that's it right there. But I'm playing this one a little bit more often. Ever since I changed the pickups on the Sir, I do like it better though. The neck on that guitar is amazing. The pickups I wasn't bonding with, but I changed those recently, and now plays much better in my opinion. Mark says, supply chain stuff sucks in Maryland right now. I'm not looking to buy any PRS right now, so I haven't been paying super close attention. So does it? So do you think that's it, Mark? It really is a supply chain issue still? Could be. Even though the COVID stuff is slowly going away now that everybody's focused on Russia, it could be. It could still be a supply chain issue thing. Paul says, I had a custom shop Strat since 2006. Take any US Strat and give a good tech $200 and your guitar will be as good. You're paying for looks and bragging rights. Zero more. Yeah, I agree with you, Paul. I agree. And if you know how to do it, you can do it yourself without even having to pay $200, honestly. But hey, if you know the people have the money and they want to buy the custom shop stuff, there's nothing wrong. Lion King says CS guitars are the best. Once you buy one of those, it's with you forever. You're going to want to take it to the grave. Could be, you know, could very well be. I'm not arguing. I mean, if it's something you like and you want to pay the cash for it, absolutely. If it makes you happy, man, go for it. I have a couple of road-worn Strats that I've worked on that feel wonderful to me. I've played the custom shop stuff. I've played it. There's a local store here that has a bunch of custom shop guitars. They're great. They look great. I love the, you know, the whole relic thing. Some people don't like that, but they look great to me. But I played them, and I couldn't say that they felt, you know, $6,000 more better. Can I say that? You know, trust me, if I would have felt that way, that it was worth the $6,000, I would have probably found a way to scrounge up the money and get one. But I could have walked away from it, no problem. Dan says CNC machines have changed the game forever. And Randy says Silver Sky, Much Ado About Nothing, wrong neck, says Randy. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with them. I still haven't had an opportunity to play one, the SEs. And as I said from the get-go, I wasn't really impressed by the colors. So unless, maybe they come out with nicer colors on the second round, I don't think I'm going to get one right away. Mark says, I think with PRS is just that the demand is so high, and compared to Gibson and Fender, they're still relatively small. Yeah, probably. I mean, but the thing is, the SE stuff is not being made in their factory, right? It's being made overseas. Perhaps they're bringing it into the factory for Q and just quality control before it actually hits the road. I'm not really sure how they do it now. Lion King says road warns are amazing too. I was blown away by the just the feel of the road warns. I know that there's a couple of them there's a couple of versions I've seen, the early ones that looked like overly done. Wasn't a big fan. Then they kind of came out with a new kind of version which was a little bit lighter on the relicking, but I think those had laurel necks. They didn't have the rosewood. Wasn't a big fan of the laurel neck. So I do have an old road-worn Strat, and I do have a road-worn Telecaster, two of my favorite guitars. And the Strat is, when I bought it, was probably 10 years old. And the guy who owned it, I think, probably may have had it for another, I don't know how long. It was at least 10. I've had it for at least 10 years, I'm going to say. And so technically, it's kind of a road-worn, an authentically worn guitar now, because I've put in a lot of dings into that unit, into that guitar. So it's getting harder to say, what's fake and what's real. I mean, there's checking on that guitar, there's dings on that guitar that that happened after I bought it. I love the fact that the paint on that guitar is thin and the neck feels great to play. Yeah, Fender definitely cranks out more guitars than PRS can ever do. And their guitars are made to be cranked out quickly. They're modular, right? So you're basically just piecing them together. You can do a lot more assembly like that than you can with the paint jobs that PRS puts on their guitars, and the set neck and all of that stuff. It takes a lot more time. Antoon says, CS guitars, I had many Fenders and Gibsons, and yes, it's just a brand marketing hype. I don't know why, with the Murphy Lab stuff, like, I love the look of those guitars. It's really tempting, but the price is just crazy. Now, if Gibson would actually release an affordable version of some Murphy Lab stuff, that would be great. But I don't think affordability and Gibson go together anymore. I think Gibson is kind of, they've understood that people are willing to pay whatever they're asking, and I don't think the prices are going to go down. Kind of like the price of gas. I think now that it's up there, I don't think it's ever going to come down. Alan says, the good thing about relic guitars is that you don't have to stress over every little nick and scratch. Absolutely true. I feel free when I take a road-worn guitar with me for a gig or something, because like you said, if I happen to nick it, it's okay. No big deal. If I take one of my Paul Reed Smith guitars, especially the more expensive ones, I baby that thing. The last thing I would want to see is a nick or a chip in one of those guitars. But the road worn guitars are the ones I've put together myself. No big deal. When I put together my partcasters, whether it's a Telecaster or a Stratocaster, I always go thin skin paint because it won't chip off in ugly clumps. You know, when you buy a guitar these days, most of the guitars have a really thick poly on them. This one probably has exactly that too. And if I would chip this guitar, it would just come off. It would break off like an ugly clump. That never looks nice. But with the thin skin stuff, it just, it looks like it's been worn. It looks like, it's it's been used and abused, but they still look nice. They have mojo. Whereas when you chip one of these guitars, it just looks wrong. Russell says Cord is the factory that had an employee set themselves on fire and got Amnesty International involved. Really? I didn't hear about that. It's terrible. What the hell happened there? Were they just they set themselves on fire on purpose just to make a point, I guess, of the working conditions? Is that what they did, Russell? That's crazy, man. Paul says if you have a big budget, I would get a new USA Strat and an LP standard and leave it at that. But custom shop, forget it. A lot of guys, when they're looking, I've spoken to a lot of guys that have some really nice custom shop guitars. They really enjoy those guitars, and I don't know if it's the placebo effect or not, but they, when they play those guitars, you can hand them anything after that, and they're like, nah, this guitar feels cheap or something, So I don't know how much of that is actually the placebo effect. Maybe because somebody spent so much money on a guitar, you almost have to justify the fact that it's got to be better. I don't know. Presley, California Custom says, Tony, my Fender Road Worn is definitely one of my top 5, totally almost CS level. Same here, buddy. I always keep my eyes open for those Road Worns. They don't pop up that often anymore, at least the older ones. But if ever I have an opportunity to grab one, I'll grab it. I'll definitely grab it because, the neck just feels so good. It's one of those things, it just feels like a nice worn-in pair of jeans. Charlie S says, Tony, can we see the road-worn Telecaster? I'd be happy to show it to you, but I don't think it's in my rack. Sorry, dude. It's not on my rack. It's in. I store my guitar somewhere else. But if you go in my videos, you can see it's the red one. It's a red Telecaster with a maple neck. That Telecaster originally had a 59 in the neck position, the 59 humbucker in the neck, and I basically swapped out the pickguard, changed it back to a standard Telecaster pickup, and the pickups I put in there really rock and sound great, and it plays wonderfully. So just, Charlie, if you want to see it, just go on some of my videos. I did a full review on that guitar, so it's in my archive. Let's see here. Ed says, when I play a Strat, I hit the middle pickup with my pick. Just can't gel with Strats. A lot of people have that issue, especially if you have a humbucker in the bridge position. And I know a lot of Ibanez guitars have humbucker, single coil in the middle. Once the real estate gets taken up with the humbuckers, I'm like you, Ed. I don't like it because I just keep on hitting that middle single coil, A lot of people, what they do is they just get that single coil out of the way. They just screw it in really low, so it's out of the way. If you do that and just use the other pickups, if you're mainly on the neck or the on the bridge pickup, you can avoid any issues just by dialing it in so it sits really low in the pick guard. Russell says Schecter was bought by the guy that started ESP, and I think they're looking at Dean, which would be great. His take would bring respect back to the brand for sure. Interesting. ESP was so huge back in the 80s. I remember a lot of bands were using those ESP guitars. They had some really nice, cool models, nice paint jobs and whatnot. But then I don't know what happened with them. They kind of disappeared. So if they come back, it could be interesting. And Little King says if Epiphones release guitars with nitro finishes, they would sell like crazy. I agree. I just prefer the thin paint jobs. If you have those on Epiphones, like the Inspired by series is already getting more enticing for me because of the fact that they did change the headstock. I never liked the big Epiphone headstocks as they were previously, but now it's becoming more interesting. That's why I bought an Epiphone acoustic. It's behind me there. I don't know if you can see it sitting there. That is also an Inspired by Epiphone acoustic guitar, which I really like, by the way. Got a great deal on it used, and I'm gonna go probably pick up a case for it for today because it's been on the stand ever since I got it, and I don't like keeping my guitars on stands. The ones behind me are just the guitars I don't have any cases for, and I'm gonna probably go out and buy 2 cases today, one for a Les Paul and another one for my acoustic guitar, and slowly get these guitars back in their cases where they belong, because sitting out like that, they're just accidents waiting to happen. Yeah, it's true, Mark. What you're saying is true. Even with expensive guitars, once you put a few dings in it, you don't really care as much. It's always that first one. That first one is always the one that hurts the most. Like a car. When you have a brand new car and you get that first scratch or that first dent, it always hurts. But after that, it's kind of you kind of let it go. It's just one of those things. Alan says Fenders and Gibsons are so common you can find in almost any guitar shop across the world, yet they are so expensive because of brand names. Exactly. It's not that they're rare per se, it's just the name. You're paying for the brand. That's why, I bought a really nice Edwards Gold Top recently. I think I showed you in one of my Sunday shows. I haven't done a review on that one, but the Edwards is way up there in terms of quality. Definitely on par with my Tokais. I love my Tokais. The Bacchus guitar I own is also really great. All, Gibson style guitars that sell for much less. They're actually even rarer because they're harder to get. But the quality and workmanship on those guitars are top notch. So that's why I grab them when I can, because the prices on those guitars are actually going up quite a bit, and you can still actually make money. You can buy one of the, you can still grab those guitars for relatively inexpensive money right now, and the prices are really going up quickly on those. Where Gibson, at least for the standard line, I think it's pretty much plateaued. At least I hope they have, because I don't see them. I mean, how much more expensive can they? How much more money can they ask for? And Fender too. How much more money could they ask for a standard Strat or a standard Les Paul? I'm sure they'll find a way to actually make it so they can up the price. But I'm looking at alternate sources of guitars that are just as good, in my opinion. Sometimes maybe even better for a lot less money. Surfer By says, I played a used Anderson drop top at my local music shop yesterday. Wonderful guitar, alder, maple top, veneer. caramelized maple neck, but it's still a little pricey. Yeah, those guitars are not cheap either. Yeah, for sure. Nobody wants to buy a relic Ferrari. True. Absolutely right. Unless the price is right. Then maybe. Um, Dean has some really good designs that you could do a company rebuild around, says BC Rich. And Alan says, I won't buy a damaged guitar either. Why pay for an item that has deliberate damage? Yeah, man, I've had this discussion many times with so many people. There's always two ends of the spectrum. Guys that really want pristine guitars when they buy something. They don't want to pay for relic. They don't like the relic thing. They don't get it. I respect that. It's not for everyone. Definitely not for everyone. I mean, I know some people that when they walk into a store, there's a guitar hanging in the shop, as they normally do. And they don't even want to buy those. They're like, do you have any that are still in the box in the back? Because somebody's played this guitar before. They're that picky. So, those type of people will probably never end up buying a road-worn guitar or something like that. Oh yeah, Mark says I really want a Maybach Lester, but they're hard to get to America. Maybach over Gibson, but Maybach is hard to get here in the U.S. If you're in the U.K., I think the Maybach, yeah. And Jeff says I wouldn't touch a U.S. Fender again. I had 3 Duff Pro 2s that all had to go back. I gave up and bought a Sir. A lot of people are saying stuff like that. Sometimes is it just bad luck, or is it just that's what it is? That's what you can expect to get. I don't know. It's all too common to find guitars that are, the $2,000 price point that have issues. I had a really nice Fender guitar at one point. It was really nice, and I had an issue with the paint. The paint on the back of the guitar was starting to kind of not flake off, but it was almost like it had melted, and like I hadn't put it down on anything that would react with the paint like that. It just started to appear, and I couldn't figure it out. I hadn't dropped anything on it, any kind of chemicals. There was nothing in contact with the guitar that would make it react that way. But it just started to kind of like shrivel up in little spots in the back, and I ended up selling it before it got worse. I couldn't explain it. Obviously, there was something going on. By the way, maybe for Fat Philosopher that was looking at the Gretsch is came out with a new lineup. I don't know if you know about that. So if your Gretsch from Anderton's didn't pass quality control, the new lineup is coming out, and there's some interesting options there for you. So maybe you want to check those out before you place another order or buy something else. Paul says Gibsons are going up every year at least 1 or 2% higher than inflation indefinitely. If the company does anything, they will bring out a Gibson Squire equivalent brand. And if they do that, I think maybe that would be the best thing. Because honestly, they have the Epiphone line. So if they bring forth another line, even less expensive than the Epiphone line, because let's face it, the Epiphones are still about $1,000 now. That might be the best thing. They probably will make a shitload of money doing that, and I think a lot of people would be perfectly happy with that kind of guitar at that price. We don't all need custom shop stuff. And Antoon says, yeah, it's a placebo effect. I have parts Fender now and an Epiphone LP with better pickups, and they play and sound just as well as the custom shop guitars I had. I think once you own a pretty expensive guitar, be it a custom shop, you know, Fender or Gibson, or something like a Sir, or something up there. When you're getting above $3,000 for an instrument, if you're honest with yourself, you're going to be comparing a lot of other guitars to those more expensive guitars. But if you're honest with yourself, you're going to see that there's a lot of inexpensive guitars that come close in terms of feel. And if the sound is not exactly what you want, that could be remedied really easily with the right pickups. So there's no real reason to be spending that kind of money. Unless, again, it's something that you can't get because it's so rare. It's a vintage instrument that you really, really want. I gassed over a really nice Gibson 335 that was a vintage guitar. It wasn't a brand new guitar off the line. It was something that was really special. Unfortunately, I didn't have the money for it, but I would have loved to own that guitar over custom shop stuff for sure, anytime. Because I also know that that guitar would be worth more money. Eventually, it would still continue gaining value. I don't know if the custom shop stuff plateaus after a while, because I've seen custom shop guitars, especially the Gibson stuff, for sale, like the the R1s and a lot of the other reissues that they put out over time that people are trying to sell for like 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 bucks now. I don't know if people are willing to pay that kind of money for those guitars. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. What do you think? Would you pay like 10 G's for a reissue Gibson? Maybe it's just me. I don't know. Maybe I'm not thinking clearly, but that's just my logic. Hey, Joe. Nice to see you, buddy. Joe's out in San Francisco. Nice. BC Rich says Fender did a good job on the Eric Johnson Strat. There's no doubt about that one. A lot of people do like the Eric Johnson versions or models. Hey, Randy. Randy says he's got a Godin. Godin is they make good guitars. I don't own any Godins. I'm not a huge fan of the look of the Godins, but of the ones that I've tried, they're all solid, well-built guitars. No doubt. No doubt in my mind. And Russell says, today I just ordered my fourth AX7521. Gems are where you find them. Vicious neck dive though. Great otherwise. When's it coming, Russell? How long is the wait gonna have to be? That's the hardest part, is having to wait for it. It really is it's really hard to wait for a guitar to come, But when it arrives, it's like, Christmas. Love it. Ali says, been playing for 40 years. Back then, Relic cost less than half of what's new, and it was basically a used guitar. A decent fret job and setup makes it play great for a quarter of the price. True? Yeah. I mean, I'm old enough to know, to have played some of the earlier Strats, the really nice ones with the big headstocks. And, I see the price that they're selling for now, because they're considered vintage now, right? I'm that old to be able to say that some of the guitars I played back in the day are now being considered vintage. I mean, some of those Strats they weren't really sought after in those days, because they were kind of, 3-bolt design on the neck, no good, that people didn't want that. The big headstock, wasn't necessarily as nice looking. But now people are like trying to find those Strats and loving them. So things change. It's odd that way. You know, it still has a three bolt headstock, the 3 bolt neck plate. You know, that people didn't like back then, but people forget. I don't know. Yeah, you know, waiting a year and a half for a guitar, Fat Philosopher. For me, I would have said goodbye. Like, thank you, but no thank you a long time ago. I just can't wait that long for anything. You know, there's too many other guitars out there and too many other shops that you can buy from. There's no real reason. I mean, I know it's just that is what it is now because of the supply chain, but it's still, I'm 99% sure I would have found something else to buy in a year and a half. I don't have that kind of patience. Russell says it's been transferred from one guitar center to another. I have 3 of them already. I just add them to the stable when I see them. I actually sat on that one for a couple of weeks and finally ... The rest is history. So it should be there soon then. If it's just being transferred, that's great. Russell says, when I get them from Guitar Center, I have them shipped to a store, so it comes smashed. So it comes smashed, then they already have it. Sorry, I'm not following. When I get from Guitar Center, I have them shipped to a store, so if it comes smashed, then they already have it. I see what you mean. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, makes sense. So you don't have to worry about the return in case something happens to it. Okay. Well, hopefully it won't get there smashed. Fat Philosopher says he prefers ebony over rosewood. Yeah, ebony's really nice. Nice and dark. I've had some acoustic guitars with some nice ebony fretboards. Yeah, it's really nice. There's no grain. It's like really dark. Yeah. And Surferby says there's a lot of deep pocket hobbyist players out there. High-end guitars do sell. I'm not denying that. There definitely is a lot of people spending money on guitars. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, my doctor, one of my doctors, I enjoy going and see him because we normally, whenever I visit him, we talk about, I'm going to say at least 30 minutes about guitars and then 10 minutes about whatever I went to see him for, from a medical perspective. And he always buys, he's on a rampage now, and he's buying some really, really nice acoustic guitars, like vintage, really expensive acoustic Martins. And, you know, I mean, good for him if he can do it and he has the money to do it. You know, fantastic. I don't think he's even a professional player. He's just a hobbyist, but I think he's just collecting these guitars now, you know. So whatever it is, if you can afford it and it, you know, floats your boat, yeah, why not? Eventually, you get sick of them, you sell them, you make your money back, especially if they're vintage guitars, wouldn't be a big problem. Ali says those vintage guitars weren't that great anyways. What a joke with these newer generations that think that these are sought after instruments. Well, you know, there definitely was a lot of variation in those older guitars because they were being made by hand. So you don't always get great ones. Agreed. There's a lot of guitars out there that are old guitars that are considered vintage and are more expensive. They're fetching a lot more money, but they don't necessarily make the cut. The guitars we have today, let's face it, guys, you know, the CNC machines we have today are great. You know, they're able to reproduce things down to the micromillimeter. And you know, you can get really good consistency, which you weren't able to get back in the day. But if you come across a really nice old guitar that was built properly and it's aged, it's like wine, you know, it just, the resonance is just amazing and it just feels great. So I understand that, you know, and I understand what Ali's trying to say when he says they're not all great. Agreed. You got to kiss a lot of frogs before you find something good. But if you do find that diamond in the rough, be sure to snag it up. Lion King says, do you still play your Chipson? I received the Chipson from a good friend of mine for free. I don't know if it's worth modding or not. Uh, yeah, I still have the Chipson. And yeah, I still play it. Is it worth modding? Yeah, it is worth modding if you intend to keep it. I wouldn't mod it if you want to sell it. But if you throw some good pickups in there and do a good fret level and set it up properly, you should be able to play really, really well. I don't see why you wouldn't want to keep it. All right, guys, there's a few more. I'm going to just answer a few last questions here. We've been on for about an hour and 20 minutes. Let's see if we have any other questions. Ali says, if you want a great playing guitar right out of the box, get a Sir, an Anderson, Marios, or a PRS. The Gibson, nah, no thanks, overhyped. Yeah, there's still a lot of companies making really, really good guitars and not necessarily putting them out en masse. And that gives them the ability to pay attention and build them really, really well. Of course, with that comes a higher price tag. So it's give and take. What I like is just getting a guitar that is still built well enough or put together well enough that I can do the rest. Because my time is basically free for me anyways, and I'm able to do it. So, if you land on one of those guitars and do a really nice setup and take the time to do it well, you're ahead of the game. Hey, Gear Junkie, nice to see you, buddy. And Lion King says, not going to sell a Chipson for legal reasons. Yeah. Well, I mean, as long as you mention that it is a Chipson, there's no, you can't be, you're not, I don't think it's fraud if you're selling a guitar and you're telling them that it's not an authentic Gibson. I think if you're trying to pass it on as a real Gibson, then yeah, you could land in some hot water for sure. Guitars is a cheaper hobby than guitars is a cheaper hobby than cars. I guess that's a good way to rationalize my obsession. There's definitely a lot of things that are more expensive than guitars. So yeah, we all try and rationalize things that way sometimes. I've done it myself many times. BC Rich says, I've played several PCBS Fender basses and they were all adequate and really not magical, to be honest. Yeah, I know. I know, man. I know. You have to kind of, like I said, it's not an automatic thing you're going to land on a guitar and it's going to be like, oh my God, because it was made pre-CBS, it's going to be like miles ahead of anything I own right now. I don't think so. Ed says, Tony, which unit like you're playing today sounds the best to you? You're talking about the multi-effects unit, Ed? Are you asking about the multi-effects? They all, it's really hard to tell you, but they all have some really great sounds. For me, it's not only a question of the sound. Obviously, it has to sound great, and I think the MG30 really sounds great. The Ampero also sounds great. The Ampero is a little bit trickier to use, but you can do more with it. And maybe it's a little bit less flexible because it doesn't have the expression pedal on it, whereas the New X does. So it's really a give and take depending on what you want to do with it. But I like the sound of the MG30 30 really well, and I like the Ampero. I haven't spent enough time with the Harley Benton unit yet to see whether or not it comes in close. But like I said, I'm gonna do a live show and I'm gonna be playing through each one of these units and going through some of the sounds and setting up stuff and taking you step by step. So if you want to tune in for that, I'll probably do the MG30 first, then I'll do the Ampero, then I'll probably spend some time with the Harley Benton, and you can decide. Gospel of Mark says, I put Dunkins in my $500 Gretsch. it went from okay sounding guitar to a rock machine. Yeah, really as easy as that. Sometimes you don't have to go crazy, man. Sometimes you have a really great foundation. Just getting the right pickups in there makes it beautiful. It's me, Don P. Great show. Good to see you back. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Now Mark calls it the jet Paul. Yeah, man, getting the right pickups in there. That's why I spend so much time on pickups. I know you guys, you know, probably think, oh, there Tony goes again, swapping pickups for nothing. But I'm telling you, man, it's the easiest thing to do to get an okay guitar to sound amazing. And once you find that right combination, it's like, there it is, you know. Randy says guitars are like women. If you get a great one, you will keep her for life. Exactly. And Bruce says a really good luthier can recognize which pieces of wood will sound better and last longer, referring mostly to acoustic instruments. And that wood is not cheap or readily available. So guys, okay, I think that about wraps it up for today. What do you guys think? No, we're not going into the tone wood discussion, Larry. Don't worry. Don't worry. And Dan says a Duncan and a JB makes everything sound better. Yeah, you know, Epiphones made in China are kind of like Gibsons. Still very good guitars. They're like Gibsons, but probably they have better quality control. They're not going to sell you seconds with, you know, weird things happening in it. I'm almost convinced, guys, that a lot of these Gibsons come from the same plants that make the actual Epiphones. They just modify the headstock and sell you the ones that don't pass quality control because they maybe have some issues with the wood or, you know, something is not quite right. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap it up. We're gonna wrap it up. Quicksilver, yes, I do have the new X Duo time delay. It's gonna be one of the things that I'm gonna be doing a review on soon as well. I'm a little bit backlogged due to, you know, personal reasons that I've had to deal with in the last little while, but they're gonna come. I can't go to noon today. Go to 12 noon, Tony. Well, it's already past 12 noon here. It's actually 1:28. So, unfortunately, I can't stick around anymore today. But I'll be back next week, guys. Don't worry. Just tune in. And if you guys want to put any comments in the sections, you know, the comment section below, do that. I'll answer your questions, all right? Even if I didn't have an opportunity to answer all of the questions today, just do that. All right, guys, really nice seeing you here Sunday. You guys warmed my heart with all of the really nice messages. So thank you once again for doing that, taking the time to think about me when, you know, things were a little bit down in the dumps for me. Hopefully from now on in, things will get better. And I definitely want to hear from you guys, so please give me your comments. Don't be shy. You know how to reach me, guys. In the meantime, take care of one another. Be good humans, because there's always somebody out there that may need your help, so be considerate of others. And join me again next Sunday. We'll be here. We'll be ready to talk about more gear, and I'll be putting out another video this week for sure, so stay tuned for that as well. All right, guys? Love you guys. Keep rocking, practice your guitars, and we'll see you soon. All right, have a great week.